Hey, what's going down, savages? Welcome to episode 40 of This Savage Life. I'm your host, Stefan Paulin. And before I keep going with this, I just want to give a special shout out to all you car mechanics out there. I think you guys are underappreciated for all the wonderful work you do. You see, today, I need a new battery for my car. Haven't been using my car a lot during this pandemic. Every time we need to use a car, we use my wife's car. It's newer, it's nicer. My car's a piece of shit. I've put a shit ton of mileage on that car throughout just traveling for wrestling here in the province of Quebec, Ontario, family vacation all the way to New Brunswick. Just put a shit ton of mileage on that car, and I do the very minimum maintenance on it. I'm actually doing the last payment this week or next week on it. I've had it for 5 years. It's been great to me, but it's coming to the end for this car. You know, I'm looking forward to getting out of this pandemic and moving towards normalcy soon, hopefully. And hopefully when all of this is said and done, I'll get myself a new car and I'll get rid of this old piece of junk. It still works, but a lot of things need to be fixed on it. I just don't want to spend all that money on it when I know that I'm going to get a new one soon. Anyway, I had to go get a car battery today. Not only did I need to go get a new car battery, I needed the tools. I didn't even have the tools at home to change the battery. And it's not like I needed this special tool. All I needed was a wrench to reach down to, like they have this like clip on it that holds the battery in place in the car. I couldn't get that off because I didn't have the proper wrench. I had to go and buy the wrench, buy the tools, then buy the battery, which isn't cheap, by the way. $150 for a fucking battery. They do give you $20 back if you bring back your old battery, though, with the receipt. So at least there's that. Anyway, came back home with all that. Went to the store, got everything I needed, came back home, changed it. Boom, it works. I'm happy. That's why. It's funny, considering that on my mom's side, I have my grandfather. My mom's dad was a car mechanic his whole life. I have three uncles that are car mechanics. If you ask me, I couldn't fix shit on a car. I couldn't change brakes. Like I said, I could do an oil change. I can change a spare tire. And now I could change a fucking battery. I've done it today. I'm good at figuring shit out. It's just I'm not an expert at all when it comes to cars. I don't really understand how they work and where everything goes. So I'm not really the one you can count on if you need something done on your car. Anywho, on today's episode, I'm joined by Dawson Graham, a.k.a. Wes Dawson, a.k.a. the Golden Lion. Dawson Graham is a professional wrestler known under the alias Wes Dawson. I met Dawson a few years back at Torture Chamber Pro Wrestling Dojo. We both went to the same wrestling school. Learned under the same guy, Drew Onyx. We became good friends. We became pretty much enemies and nemesis in the ring. We feuded a lot, but we became rivals and had just a shit ton of fun in the ring, wrestling each other. And we put together some great matches. And he's been on the podcast before, and I'm always able to have a great conversation with Dawson, so that's why I invited him back. We had a great conversation, lasted about an hour and a half this time around, so I'm going to be releasing part 1 of our conversation. It's about 50 minutes, and then I'll be releasing part 2 of our conversation this coming Thursday on episode 41. I really hope you enjoyed this episode with Dawson Graham.
No, I've been up north ever since this happened. So about 2 months. 2 months of rent spent for an apartment I have not seen in over 60 days. So yeah, wow. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's fucked up. You're still working though?
Yeah, no, I do teletravail, so I get to work from home pretty much the whole time. So that any gripes I have about my place of employment, at least I'm happy that I had work throughout all this, so I can't complain.
Yeah. At least I went back to work last Friday.
Okay.
And I'm pretty much back to work full time now. I mean,
You're
I was
happy.
I was looking forward to it. I mean, I've been at home 2 months. It's about time, I think, to like, I felt it. Like I went into work, I put in a whole day's work. I was fucking tired. At the end of the day, I got home. I built a new bed. We bought a new bed, so I had to build this new bed frame. Took me like 4 hours to put the whole thing together. By the end of the day, I was fucking dead tired, but I felt so good. I haven't felt like that sense of like
Accomplishment.
accomplishment and like just the fatigue. It was like, holy shit. Like I don't know. It was a weird feeling. I'm looking forward to just getting back to a bit of normalcy too, you know?
No, it's weird. It went like phases. For a while, it was cool. It was sort of like a forced vacation for everybody, and it's not bad to see your family a bit more. But then after a while, it's like more and more. I'm getting tired of this new normal that we're living there. It's 4 hours for grocery shopping is not something I'm very excited about. So
It's crazy, right?
oh,
It's the thing that is a bit frustrating is that no one kind of knows when all this is going to end, especially here in Montreal.
oh yeah,
Like,
Montreal's terrible. It's ridiculous
yeah,
how much worse it is.
it's like I spoke to people from back home and like they have no cases in New Brunswick and they're like going back to normal. Like they're up
Yeah.
to like phase 2 of like they can get together, I think, up to 10 people at a time and shit like that. So
That's it. People ask me like, oh, like, well, at work, like, oh, are you coming back to the office? And I was like, a voluntary return. I'm like, I live in Montreal. I'm like, I can't go back to Montreal. And I live in Montreal, north of all the boroughs. I'm like, it's hit hardest out of all of them. So I'm like, I can't exactly go to the epicenter and drive into work every day after, you know? So
yeah, I mean, we all stay like we've pretty much been at home for nine weeks, I think. Like
yeah,
me, the wife, and the kids. You know, it gets to you after a while, but like you said, like there's a new norm to the way we live right now, so you kind of get used to that.
yeah.
Plus, we're just lucky that our kids are so good. You know, they're at an age that it's not that difficult. You know, they're independent. They're starting to be independent anyway. Even my daughter. So
They're
it
not
was like.
clinging for all their friends and to get back right back to school and stuff like that.
Well, you know, my son is 11, but he plays, he's online, he's on PS4, and they play together with all of his friends. Like, he's got his, like, online friends, and that's all they do. Like,
Yeah,
it kind of, like, he doesn't really have time to, like, miss his, school friends and being around. Like, obviously, he does, but it's, like, he keeps his mind occupied enough, like, with all the schoolwork that we give them and his fucking video games and everything else, you know?
and he's not bored. That's what I said to my sister. Imagine if this happened when we were kids and like we had a Nintendo that would like overheat if you played it for like 4 hours. You know, like we didn't have the means to like be entertained all day for months on end. I'm like, we'd be killing each other playing Monopoly for the 10th time. You know, like
Yeah, yeah. And if you're living, especially if you're living like in a city where like going outside is hard, like all you could do is
yeah,
like go out and for walks, like I go out with my kids in front of the house here in the street and I let them play in the street. We just go around, they ride their bikes. There's a little patch of grass there near my
yeah.
house. They play on it for, we go outside for an hour and a half. They play just so they could feel a bit normal, like they don't get to do that anymore. Like when they go to school, they'd be outside for recess, they'd be outside for lunch and they play together and they don't do that anymore. So you have to kind of keep a little bit of that because then it's always in the house and then they become, it's either TV, it's either their whatever
Turn it into
device
Wally.
they're on.
That's it.
It's at least if like someone like you that works during the day or like my wife, she's been working since the beginning of this from home, but like she puts in like,
Yeah.
8, 9 to, some nights 5 and 6, it's like she works a lot by emails and doing all these meetings and stuff. So
You don't need to be
like,
there.
I mean, we're lucky that way. We're lucky that I get to go back to work and I work in a place that's low risk, like we're at a big warehouse. We're not a lot of employees. We get to, it's easy to stay away from everybody. We can eat our lunch at different times, like we could be 2 at a time in the kitchen and we can eat at, different times, just in groups. It's easy. Plus I felt good. It just felt like, I wasn't like, I don't know, wasting time and just.
That's my big thing is trying to like feel like I'm doing something productive. Like I'm lucky where I'm at, my family home. We have so much property, so there's always work to do. There's something to do, you know. But then like my buddy's living in the city that live like in Côte Verte. He's like, I have nowhere to go. He's like, if I go outside, I'm pretty much in like large groups of people. There's nowhere to go, and that's it for my work too. It didn't change much because some people are like, oh, you must be able to slack off more. I'm like, well, I certainly start a bit later, but I finish later. But I'm like, they can see everything I do. I'm like, they can check my mouse trailing, you know? Like, if you leave your computer on and go back to bed, they're going to know you've been sitting there for 2 hours doing nothing. So I'm like, if anything, I have to be more efficient now, you know?
Fuck, yeah. Yeah, you constantly have to have work at your fingertips if they, you know, because they can easily follow your progress. It's kind of fucked up. You can
just like nod at the screen and be like, pretend.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up because it seems like it's going to be like this for a few months still, you know?
And I don't mind some of the safety stuff. What bothers me is like if this becomes normal that like you don't realize how much like interacting physically with people is a thing. Hey, wrestling is all physical, but I mean just in normal everyday life, like shaking someone's hand or like, you know, giving your buddy a shot or something like that. It's like you can't really do any of that now. You can't come into anywhere near contact with people. It's just I just hope that doesn't become the normal thing, you know, after this is sort of cleared up.
Well, it's going to have a bigger impact like on the generation like my kids' age because they're going to kind of be raised for a small part of their lives. But it's up, you know, like if you're 6 years old and this new norm, say, lasts 18 to 24 months, that's 2 years of your 6 to 8 years of existence. That's a big part of your life so far. So that's going to trail off it's going to follow you way longer in life than us that have been living the majority of our lives without this bullshit. And then if this lasts 2 years, well, it's just like we can easily move on from this and try to get back to what was before. Like kids, it becomes the new norm, and it's going to be harder for them to adapt to what the world was because they just want to move on from this and just go like, we're adaptable. This is the new life. Yeah, sure. No problem. We can't shake hands anymore. No problem. We fist bumps. We stay away from each other. We do most of the things online. Look, it was already what I think people had a picture of the future. But even before this, they were picturing, people are going to work more from home. It's going to be more virtual this. There's going to be a lot more interaction online and instead of face-to-face. You're already starting to see that with people constantly texting instead of calling, instead of having meetings now. It was like, let's just do emails or let's do virtual. It was already like that. I feel like for a certain portion of people, this is just going to kind of fast forward the process of
it would have been anyway.
Exactly. Like there's a certain age group right now, like early 20s, teens to like mid 20s that they're already kind of used to this life because they were already using more of the technology than like our generation, like, you know, 30s to 40s. And I think they're just going to become part of their life. So even when things come back to normal, these people might not have a feel or a sense to go back to doing things face to face. They're like, well, this is easier. It's saving the company actually some money. So let's just keep doing it like this, you know, and then it's just going to grow from there.
Oh, for sure. And like for us, like people our age, like we grew up, we adapted to technology and like we use it just fine. But I mean, like younger kids, it's ingrained into who they are. Like growing up, what's normal to them is communicating like worldwide and instant, like HD, everything. It's so different. Like I just found for us, like you're saying, like the impact this will have. Just think about like the ice storm, how much we can still. I remember that, how much it affected. Like, school was canceled and all this stuff going on, and it's like this is 10 times worse and way larger scale. It's like a global pandemic, so it's for sure the kids. It's gonna change how they grow up. But it goes back to what I said before. Like the electronics they have now, like people, there's another world that already exists, so they just go into that, and then it's not a problem. It's not like trying to figure out what to do with your family. What do we do Friday night? Well, everybody already has a plan. Everybody has their own phone, their own computer, their own thing that they're doing.
Yeah. It's like I came up in a time where up until 14 years old, I didn't use internet. You know, I started slowly using the internet in 1994 when it was dial-up and my friend had a line, his parents had a line, but I never had an internet line in my grandparents' house until I moved, like, up until I moved out when I was 18 years old. We never had the internet at home. Like I always had to depend on my friends with the internet. If I wanted to do research or go to the library, if I needed to do some sort of research at that time. But like, we didn't grow up from the get-go with this. So we remember a time where we didn't have the internet. Yeah. So we kind of have this life skill that our kids will never have, because asking your kids nowadays to not play video games online, because they all play online now. It's either Fortnite or Call of Duty or all these games that you're creating this avatar, this player, which is you, but like way more skillful in a way. You could do all these crazy things, and people get to know you for the gamer, not for the person you are, right? So you kind of create this persona online, and asking kids nowadays to not do that, they're like, I don't understand. It's like, it's always what I've done. Like, it's part of their lives. Like, it's something you can't remove. Like us, you can't remove the part of our lives where we were able to communicate before the internet and before smartphones and all of that, because we were brought up through the technology. These kids just were given a fucking smartphone almost from the womb. It's like, boom, it's in your DNA. You know how to use this, and then they just boop, and that's it. It's just it's like an extension of their own person. Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah, it's it. Well, it's like the equivalent of telling us when we're kids you can't go play outside with your friends. Like, to them, that's the normal thing to do. Like, we go play online. So for them, it's like, that's it. And my niece and nephew have never seen like an old school TV, the big tube TVs. They've never seen that. Like, since they were born, they've had the flat screen plasma TVs, and I'm like, that blows my mind. I'm like, oh my, this is ridiculous. They have no idea. Like, a wooden TV on the floor to them is like ridiculous. Like that can't be a thing. I'm like, yeah, we had like 2 of them. It's ridiculous. So.
That's funny you say that, because at the beginning of this pandemic, at the beginning of the quarantine, we were going out for walks around the block. And there was somebody threw out one of those old TVs. So we walked by, and they were like, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's a television. They're like, but I don't get it. Why is it in a box?
Yeah, why is it like a dehumidifier?
Yeah. They were like, why is the TV in a box? I'm like, no, this is the TV. It was one of those wood, like, it's a furniture piece and a TV at the same time. And it was there. It's been there. I think it's still there. So we passed last week, and they saw it again. And my daughter was like, that's really a TV? Like, she couldn't believe.
You got to refurbish it.
Yeah, because the TV at home is on the wall. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's just a square on the wall, and it just shows my cartoons. And this is a box on the floor. I don't get it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Just seeing the TV, like, if you went to someone's house now and their plasma TV was sitting on the floor, you'd be like, are they a fucking psycho? Like, what the hell? Who watches TV on the floor? And it's like, but now it's like, no, that's how it was back in the day. Everyone stares down when they watch TV.
Imagine if they saw, like, I remember having an old TV at my grandparents' house. They put it in my room. It only had like the dial on it. That go up to like 13, and then you had a smaller dial you had to adjust if you wanted like the channels above 13. Yeah. And my grandfather bought this box with a remote that you connect to it so that you can have the higher channel.
Giant, it's like a VCR size remote there. Like,
yeah, and then you have this big remote with these big rubber buttons. I remember the remote, it was gray. Yeah. And I remember he put that in my room. I was young, like. And I remember the first thing that I watched on it was like a Montreal Expos game. I could get the Montreal Expos. That's all I would watch in my room.
Yeah. Well, up at my parents' place, we still have this, like, it's back behind the garage. Because I was picking up, there's like scrap metal in the yard. So I was grouping all that together. I'm like, fuck, I got to take this down. It's a 25-foot satellite dish. And the dish on it, it's got to be like 18 feet across. It's humongous. I'm like, I don't even know how to take that thing down. And I was like, that's what we used to use to get television. I'm like, it's ridiculous how big this is. Bigger than the house, fuck.
You're talking about the big dishes.
Yeah, like the box inside, like you would tune the channels, and the dish outside would manually move and turn to pick up reception.
Yeah.
The winter, you hit it with a broom to get the snow off it, and then the signal would be clearer after. It was like, and it was ridiculous to think about now.
It's insane. I remember my grandfather's cut. I forget. It was like one of my great uncles. They had one at their house. Yeah. And I used to go watch. Once in a while, he would invite me over, and I would watch the WWF pay-per-views, like the SummerSlam or because he had like back in the day when they had these old satellites in your backyard with the big ones like you'd have this box you could add and they would give you like American channels like for free.
We had all our
right?
signals coming from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and then you could get like box. I remember watching. My friend had an uncle that had one, and with the box, and we watched UFC 1 and I believe either UFC 1 or UFC 2 on as it was going on, like 1993, like
stomping heads and stuff like it's like crazy.
We went there to watch the pay-per-views too, the WWE, WWF at the time, and I remember we used to watch. It was during the time just around when Owen Hart died.
Okay.
And we remember, I believe we were supposed to watch that one, and we just decided not to watch it and not go to his uncle, or something happened. I forget what it was, and we missed it.
That was crazy.
And but it was crazy. Like I couldn't get pay-per-view when I was younger. There wasn't a thing. It was like kind of closed circuit or whatever the fuck it was called. Like it was such an event when you knew someone that had a satellite dish that could get like the WrestleManias or like the boxing matches or all whatever it was.
I think a lot of stuff just wasn't available in Canada. I think that was it, because like us, like for like all the channels we had, like instead of like Degrassi, I watched Saved by the Bell. I watched all American shows because like we had channels that just weren't available in Canada at the time. But like because I've seen the dishes before that are like 8 feet tall that sit in the backyard. I've never seen one this big. Like I'll take a photo and put it on my Instagram. It's crazy how friggin' big this thing is. I was like, my God, like this is I don't even know how to get rid of it. If I took it down, I'm gonna have to bury it somewhere, you know.
I think that I remember the time with those big ones, and then I remember early 2000, the first job I got out of college. I worked for Sony, and we wouldn't sell the dish, but it's the time where people had the smaller dishes where you bought them and you got someone to install them like at the corner of your house. I still see them. Like if I could see one right now. I'm looking at one at the neighbor and he has one on the top of his house, but it's no one uses it anymore. Like whatever it was called, Bell something.
Express View.
Yes, that's what it was.
Now it's all 5 and now it's all cable. That's it.
Yeah. Fuck, man. And those were, it's the same, basically the same thing, just a smaller satellite dish.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that within less than 10 years, they were like, well, we need one that's fucking 50 feet high.
Size your house, that's it.
Right? Like imagine you needed to put that, you wanted a satellite so bad, you wanted TV channels so bad that you were willing to put this eyesore in your backyard just so you could get TV.
Well, if my parents say they had like a bungalow, like a 1-floor, it would be taller than the house. It's almost as tall as the garage, and the garage is taller than the house. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, for sure the neighbors must hate this thing. Like, sticks out above the trees.
Hides the sun from half the neighbors down the street or some shit like that. It's crazy, though. Like, now you try to explain that to someone that's never seen that before, they'd be like, I don't understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, I turn on the TV and I have Netflix and I can watch 500 movies.
That's it.
Like,
well, shows we weren't allowed to watch. We thought we were so sneaky. We hear our dad pulling in the driveway, start changing the channel. He could hear the satellite turning, and we're like, well, it's not like he doesn't know. He can see this giant thing turning to the west after when he gets home. Oh no, we're just watching whatever shows we're allowed to watch, Dad. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's not like there was porn on that shit, right?
No, but you could get the scrambled stuff. Like if you played around with it, you'd come across like green sketchy porn, and you're like, oh my God! But it wasn't until the Express View that we got the high quality stuff. My formative years.
I remember a friend of mine in high school. He figured out what the fucking you could put like a parent code, like a lock code on it if you wanted to go to the dirty channels. His dad had the dirty channels, but there was a lock on it you couldn't press. And he figured out what the fucking code was. We'd all want to go to his house when he's like, can we come over to your house when your parents aren't home?
We had the Express View for a while. We had like the pirate card where we would every day, eventually it happened to be like every day, so it was no good. But usually like once a week you reprogram the numbers. We'd have access to every channel. So then I had to learn how to do that so we keep updating our satellite. But my friend's place, like their father-in-law, every time they'd leave on the weekend or if they went on a trip, he'd lock all the channels. And I'm like, what a shit thing to do. So I would just take their card, reset it, put it back in, and he'd be like, how did they break the password? And I'm like, what the fuck? I just reset your fucking card every time. I was like,
how did you reset the card though?
It's because it would have like it'd have like an insert into the Express View, and you'd slip the Bell Express View was like looked like a credit
Oh,
card.
you're talking about the Express View. I thought you were talking about the old system. No.
No,
Okay,
this is the Express View. That's it. But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it got to be like every day they were changing the code, so it was hard to keep it up to date. And then when they put like Wi-Fi signals in the Express Views, they would just send a signal if you pirate it right away. So you're like, okay, those days are done.
I remember a bunch of the guys that I worked with at the electronics store. They had all those satellites where like you'd have to take the card out. That's probably what you did. Either they plugged it in this machine that they hooked it to their computer and they reprogrammed it, and then it would work for a while, and then they would shut it down, and then they would have to get the new code. Like it was always a fucking process, and they were like, "You should get it. You should get it." I'm like, "You fucking should get it." All I hear is you guys fucking complaining. I would like during like the thing is that. If you're just watching like regular TV, it probably never goes out. But then on the weekend, if you want to watch
WrestleMania weekend, every time you'd like
exactly, they'd be like, you motherfuckers, like you're not. There's wrestling this weekend. Nope, we're gonna descramble. Like we're already, fuck, man. Yeah. Nowadays, you can watch everything online. It's insane how it went from having all those machines needed. Yeah. Like, when's the last time? Do you still have a VCR at home?
We have a VCR DVD duo. And then
shit.
Yeah, I'll be like, this old movie, we should watch it. We should look to stream that. My sister's like, we have it on VHS in the living room. I'm like, I can't watch VHS. You sort of through the whole, like the noise through the whole movie. I'm like, I can't watch VHS. That's ridiculous. Like
the quality was just like,
oh man,
amazing,
ridiculous.
Right? Like I remember like we didn't have a VCR. I'd have on the weekends, my mom would bring me to the video store. I would rent the machine and with movies for 2 nights. So I'd have it Friday night and Saturday night and bring it back on Sunday. Yeah. And then that's how I started watching wrestling. At the beginning, I would rent like comedies like Police Academy and all sorts of fucking movies like that. I loved it. And then one day I rented WrestleMania 3 and then that was it. It was like, boom. After that, I would only rent wrestling until my mom was like, you can't just watch wrestling all weekend. It makes you go crazy. Like I fucking was, breaking my bed because I wanted to play wrestling every fucking other minute, Fuck, man. Now you get everything online at a fucking touch of a button. They
just kind of accepted piracy. Eventually all like music and like the entertainment industry is like, we can't really stop this. Let's just keep going.
It's fucked up though that it's so easily like if you want to watch a UFC pay-per-view, like most people watch them, stream them illegally. Yeah. Like let's face it, there. I'm curious to know if there's more people than not that do it.
Well, what I find crazy is the people that still pay like $60 for a pay-per-view. Like even like namely for wrestling, I don't get how like you can get the network for cheaper. Like I find $60 is crazy to spend on one event on one show, And
then they still offer $60 pay-per-views for wrestling?
The 2-part Mania was still $60. I'm like, that's fucking ridiculous. I was like, that's crazy.
$60 a night it was?
I don't know if it was for both nights or if you paid and you got both there, but it was. I know it was still advertised $56.99 or whatever, and then I was like, that's ridiculous. Like that's half a year worth of
network for free for a month, and then it's 10 or 30, whatever the price is. That's insane. Imagine there can't be someone that just keeps renting $60 pay-per-views every month.
It's got to be like you watch Mania and you watch SummerSlam or something like or you watch like just the big UFC fights once a year. Like there's no way that every month. It doesn't make sense. It's crazy. Well,
it must still be that there's a lot of people still doing it like that, or it just wouldn't be offered anymore. Like get the fucking network. I think it's because a lot of people don't have it's probably that a lot of people don't have cable at home anymore. They watch all their content through online.
I don't have TV at home. Right. In my apartment, I just have the internet. That's it. I don't use I don't have satellite or anything like that there. It's all streamed.
So do you have the network?
Yeah.
So you're able to just get the WWE Network and put it on.
Well, I know for a lot of people, the issue was like it was hard to get it. Like only certain carriers had it. Like in the city with Videotron, I was able to have it, but then Bell didn't. It wasn't available through Bell at first. Like a certain area now with my parents have Shaw Satellite, so on their satellite thing, I pay for the channel, and that way I just go online to the network anywhere I am. I just stream it with my computer. So.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. So you could do that. They allow you to do the streaming on your whatever device now, right?
I don't know if it's still like this, but you had to have a subscription to the channel to have the streaming service, which is ridiculous there. If you
Yes.
yeah.
That's what I didn't understand at first. I was trying to like when I got the WWE Network, like I had Videotron, and at first it wasn't available in Canada on any network, and I was like, well, how can why isn't it just like Netflix where I could just go online and watch it? Like, why do I need? But no, there's like, no, you need it needs to be attached to whatever cable company that you have. So when it got to Videotron, I got it, but I wasn't able to view the content online. Like if I went
channel.
Yeah, if I went online on my phone, I wouldn't be able to view the content online at first. You had to only watch it on TV.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people stream illegally or pay only for the big pay-per-views because they just don't have a cable company that they're attached to or that they pay a monthly fee to.
Which like defeats the purpose of the network. But I'm sure it has to do with the legalities of how they distribute the rights or something like that. You know, like it's something to do with some like inner dealings within WWE and the way they stream service there. But
I think in the States, it's completely different. I think in the States, it's like Netflix. You could stream it anywhere, any device. But in Canada, probably because of licensing fees or like whatever bullshit. Like,
yeah, I love this country, but I got to say one thing pisses me off is no one's going to care about this, but they've just re-released all of the real Ghostbusters action figures in Walmarts, but not in friggin' Canada. So I'm like, I text Nate. I was like, if you ever go to Walmart and you see these figures, buy me every single one of them. I'll pay you back. And I'm like, it just, I don't know why Canada, even like I understood back in the day, how come in 2020 we're still like, you know, the country that's listening to like the cool rap from the 90s instead of like what's happening today? Like, why are we so behind with all this shit? I hate that.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's weird, right? Because sometimes why do we need an Amazon.com and an Amazon.ca? Like, why is there certain products that I can only get on the American Amazon and I can't get on the Canadian? Like, where
and
like
they ship to Canada anyway, so why isn't it available on the .ca site? But,
right? Like at the end of the day, it's the same fucking company, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I get that certain products are only available on the Canadian one because, you know, I don't know if it has to do with local, like, you know what I mean? Like Canadian made products or whatever it is. But like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. The idea that I can get something, but I can't get it because I don't live in the United States. So you can't ship it to me. Like, I don't get it.
No, it's not right. It's not right.
Like,
and I've been waiting.
Go
ahead. Oh, no, I've been waiting with like all the shit going on with the pandemic for the US dollar to drop. Then I can order some stuff on Amazon.com. And then the one site I wanted to order some shirts from, like the prices have gone down, but now like the import duties have gone to like $25 per order. I was like, you bastards.
They'll find a way to make their money because they know that people are going to start shopping in the States and they're going to make less money on purchases because the dollar's down. I don't even know what the dollar is. I don't pay attention to that. Is it good or bad?
Now I think it's like $1.42 Canadian. About last time I checked, it was $1.42 Canadian for $1 American. I'm like, did they not see what's about to happen? I was like, I think they're going to be in trouble very soon.
Wow, that's still fucking high.
Yeah, I figured just that. Like I thought there'd be so much uncertainty with the way that Trump is kind of like, coronavirus is nothing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like I figured people would be like backing out of their investments, but everyone's like, no, fucking God bless America, let's roll.
I went. I had this discussion with my sister-in-law yesterday, and it was like we had a discussion about it. Like, it's insane how the United States are treating this so like completely different than how Canada is dealing with this.
Like, very nonchalant.
Well, every state is like wants to do their own thing, right? It's like there's no uniformity to how they're doing things. Like California wants to do things their way, and they have the right to. The governors of every state is in charge to basically come up with the rules, and they can pretty much do whatever they want. If they want to reopen, they can reopen. And Trump is just there like as a cheerleader. He's just like, come on, open up the economy, blah, blah, blah. Because he doesn't want the economy to tank on his watch. It's so fucking messed up because it's all about who can do it better. I have the answer. No, I have the answer. It's when you watch from afar, you're like, holy shit, man. Like I'm over
here. They're
here.
gearing up for elections too. So that's why, like, you know, Trump can't have his approval rating go any lower because he wants to go for re-election soon. So.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up because they're trying to like you say, it's kind of like they're trying not to make a big deal out of this on their side, but they're the country with the most death by like far. Oh, yeah. You know, it's fucked up. Like, hey, no, we're good, but you're not. Like, you got a lot of people dying.
Yeah, and there's like I keep reading these things. There's like this inflammatory like reaction in children that's happening due to the coronavirus, and they're like, it says in the article, this is not linked to the coronavirus. But it happens in populations where there's high cases of this virus. And I'm like, well, how is that not direct? They're just trying to like downplay it so people don't panic. I'm like, well, obviously it has to do with this fucking virus. Otherwise, children wouldn't be having this issue. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. It's the Kawasaki disease. Is that what it is?
Man, I have no idea. I don't remember. I just read a bit like that. Like it's just their limbs like swell up. They get red skin and it gives them like heart and organ issues. I was like, oh fuck, hey.
There's so many like different things that they're trying to link to this thing, though. I think it's just like, so all of a sudden we got more cases of this. They kind of just automatically assume that it has to do with the coronavirus, and you're kind of left to like, well, it probably does, you know, or maybe it's the fact that we're at home every single day and we don't function as normal. Maybe our body is like, it could be so many different fucking factors.
Yeah. And
they're just like, nah, it's probably linked to COVID-19. Like, it's messed up. It's fucking messed up. I try to stay away from that shit now because I'm like, I can't. It drives me crazy. I don't know who to believe anymore. Like, what bullshit do I believe today? Like, because I could choose to believe this or I could choose to believe that. And then there's like no in between. Mm-hmm. Like I still don't understand up to today how up to now how media and I don't know, seeing it doesn't matter who, like, why are more people trying to tell people how to boost their immune system? And there's like, listen, if you're healthier, chances are you might not get this thing as bad as other people that are not healthy. Like, and tell people how they could become like. I think obesity is a big reason why America has a lot of cases. That's what I read. I don't know if that's the case, but I mean.
Well, it would make sense too. Like just in general, if you're less healthy, you can't fight any disease better than someone who's healthy. Like not that the other person isn't susceptible. I mean, like obviously if you're in great shape and you take care of your body and you're eating right and like your immune system that's how you get a better immune system. You know, if you treat your body like a pile of dog shit, like you're not gonna fight things off nearly as well.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Because it's fucked up because yesterday, me and my sister and I were talking about how Sweden decided to do things. Like they didn't do as many restrictions. Like kids kept going to school and they do like their herd immunity type thing. Like they say that if herd immunity gets to above 60%, then the virus isn't effective anymore. I don't understand the science behind that, but they're almost there, Sweden. And it took them about 2 to 3 months to get the herd immunity. Like that's basically, they're saying that it might be the best way to get out of this pandemic.
Probably the size of the population, like Canada and the States probably, I don't know what is the population of Sweden? I would figure it's smaller than Canada, but.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Thank God we have the internet.
Yeah, because that's the problem with like the U.S. It's just, that's for anything, for like, not social welfare, but like for Medicare, things like that. They're so humongous to implement these programs. Yeah, if you did it from the get-go, it would probably be a lot easier. But to put these things in place when there's 333 million people, it's kind of hard, you know. And the herd immunity, it's like if it doesn't work, 60% of their population is a fuckload of people. Like so, they're like
they have 10.23 million people as of last year.
Okay.
See, here's the thing too that my sister-in-law she read the article about this herd immunity and how Sweden were doing, and it's also. It works for them because their population does things right. Like if the government tells them to do something, they trust in that government way more than populations like Canada and the United States trust in their government. Yeah. Like if the government puts forward a plan and tells and says we recommend, the population is more likely to follow those recommendations than countries like us where a lot of people are gonna it's like they have more of a combatant way of life. It's more like, why would I think a lot of people are think that by the government trying to tell them to stay home and do all this, that they're losing their freedoms, and in a sense they are, But like at a certain point, you have to tell yourself, like, this isn't just about you and your freedom. Yeah. This is about everybody's
people,
the health, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope it works for Sweden because they're so goddamn beautiful. We can't risk to lose them. So at least if they're doing that right, I'm happy.
Well, they also have to take in consideration that people in Sweden are genuinely more healthy than anybody else. Well, like they have beautiful, strong, healthy people. They would live. It all has to do with how like that population lives, you know, like if they're mostly, they eat mostly healthy and organic food and all that, and you get a bigger chance of being healthy and being able to combat this disease. Like if it hits a place where 60% of the population is obese, smokes cigarettes, drinks every night, like there's no way you can't understand the correlation between these two things. Like it's like any virus, like your immune system gets compromised if you're not in shape, or if you don't eat healthy, if you smoke cigarettes, if you drink every night, or if you do this, you do that, lack of sleep. There's so many different fucking factors that you're just like, everybody's just trying to figure it out. Like it's fucked up to say, because I was saying this to my sister-in-law yesterday. I said, people are afraid to admit that at a certain point, if this doesn't get any better, that we're going to have to adapt some sort of barbaric ways to really get out of this, which means we're going to have to put a price on we're going to have to put value on human life. Yeah. Meaning, like, if this doesn't get any better, we're going to get to a point where we're going to have to sacrifice certain portion of the population simply because we can't afford anymore.
Can't survive.
Like, if we want the human race or the population to keep moving forward, we're going to have to leave certain people behind. And people don't want to admit that, because we've been brought up in society now where everything is so easy, everything is so comfortable. Like,
everybody's so protected. That's it.
And you can do everything from a phone. Like, everything is so comfortable that I think a lot of people got used to thinking that technology could save them from anything that would ever happen. Yeah. Well, maybe except a fucking real virus that kills a lot of people really fast. And then they're like, holy shit, I feel like we're living back in the 15th century with how this is like this. Everybody's talking about the Spanish flu and about all these different pandemics throughout history. Well, maybe at the end of this, if it gets bad enough, we're going to have to adapt the same mentality they adapted in the 15th century or whenever they had pandemics that were way more prevalent than this pandemic. Because as much as you don't want to say it, like, compared to any other pandemic, this is not as bad as any other pandemic we've had before.
In terms of death, that's it. They're not dropping like they were the Spanish flu. It's just it's spreading fast, I guess, is the big concern. But
and I think if you look back in history, when the Spanish flu started, they probably didn't understand how it worked either, and they probably had to take some months and years to try to figure out how this fucking thing worked, so they can combat. And like, the same thing is going on now. We're lucky because we live in a place where we have technology that helps us do things a lot faster and get to a certain point a lot faster than in 1918 or whatever the fuck. And communicate. The thing is that you get all these different countries trying to come up with a solution, trying to come up with a vaccine, trying to come up with a medication. Then you gotta go, oh, we got one. Now you got to be willing to share the information with everybody else, right? That's where it's fucked up, because you're gonna have to, people have to come together at a certain point where it's like someone needs to come up with a medication for this, or this is gonna get really bad.
Yeah, and like the one thing that's really changed in my mindset and all this is like, as I train, I'm training for various reasons. A lot of it has to do with wrestling and performing, stuff like that. And it's like, as I'm training and trying to be healthy and hoping my knee doesn't give out, I'm like, I've always done this purely for wrestling. Like, before this, I played sports, but I never did anything competitively. And I'm like, I guess I'm also training now, because let's say, like, the world does break down. There is an apocalyptic event. I'm not saying that this is leading to that, but let's just say zombie outbreak happens tomorrow. I'm like, I do want to be physically fit enough that I can just keep running an hour and get away from, like, I want to be physically fit to protect myself and survive. And I'm like, Christ, you don't even realize, like, just in this, the fact that I have a healthier immune system, I'm like, I'm better protected than so many people when I go out in public. That's why I'm not overly concerned with like, I never was covering up my hands, all this stuff. Like I do now for out of respect for the other people when I'm out in public. But I mean, like, the more I train, the more I'm like, there's a lot of like life value to this as opposed to outside of wrestling and stuff. I was like, oh shit. Well.
I think we do things now from a different perspective. Like you said, like you trained before this, but it was from a different point of view where you were just trying to be fitter because you're in your underwear in front of hundreds of people every weekend.
Vanity. Yeah.
And you need cardio to perform well, and you need strength to be able to be good and athletic and all that stuff. But you did it for the sport of professional wrestling. Now you're doing it for survival, which is completely different. Yeah. Like the thing that fucks me up about this is we look at this and a lot of people are like, this is crazy. 2020, we're going through a pandemic, something we've seen in movies.
Yeah.
Only in movies. Everybody that's going, most people, I don't think there is many people alive that went through the Spanish flu and are still alive today, right? So the majority of people, there's some that have gone through World War II. That was pretty dramatic, right?
Yeah. Most
of the people going through this, the craziest shit they went through was probably 9/11, right? Or the AIDS pandemic in the 80s, which is similar to what we're going through now, but just in a smaller scale. There's probably other things that I'm forgetting, so please don't get upset if I forgot something. But I'm just trying to make it.
I lived through this.
I'm just trying to.
98.
Fuck yeah! Hey, don't forget about this. People will get fucking pissed and they start yelling at their screen or their fucking phone while they're listening to this. But I forgot the fucking point I was trying to make. Like this pandemic, I don't remember what we were talking about before. Fuck this week, man.
Something about pandemics, how we're dealing with it. It wasn't as bad as the AIDS in the 80s.
Yeah. I was trying to make a point before we were talking about this, about something you were talking about before.
I'll throw this in. I don't know if it's true or not. This is what somebody said to me. Same person who told me they're shutting down gas stations. I'm like, no, they're fucking not. And they're like, how can you be so sure? I'm like, because that's ridiculous. Like, unless we're going to war and we're losing, like, we're not closing gas stations. But no, apparently, like, the Spanish flu I knew was in the early I thought it was like 1920s.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, it's true because it was right after World War I. Like, but it seemed apparently every 100 years there's been a pandemic or there's been some kind of outbreak. Like if they trace back every 100 years right back to the plague, and I was like, I don't know if that's true or not. But when they said that, I was like, a whoa kind of moment. I was like, I felt like Keanu Reeves. I was like, oh shit.
Well, I think that has to do with a lot of factors, and I'll get back to those factors. But I remember the point I was trying to make, and I fucking forgot it again. Can you fucking believe this shit?
I hate that.
My short-term memory from smoking this weed is so fucking bad. It's insane. Like, also because I probably got hit in the head way too much. But I'm gonna do it. I'll think of something, and I'm like, if I don't get it out right now, it's gone. It's gone in the stratosphere. What did you just say? What's the point you just made? Oh, here's the point. Here's the point I was gonna make.
Go.
The thing that scares me about all this is that, yes, like you look at this right now and you're like, motherfucker, we're going through something I only thought would be possible in a movie, right? Yeah. You're like, I've seen movies, but now, like, in my head, I'm like, the day that they say there's going to be zombies, I'm like, of course. Like, it seems more and more like a possibility. Like, I'm not saying it's possible, but I'm saying, because pandemics have happened before, so it's kind of like, it's just that it's so surreal that we're going through a pandemic, something that I've myself only read about in books or heard about happening throughout history. Zombies, I guess, is different because it's never happened that there's a zombie outbreak, but it's just like, it's fucked up that we're going through something that I never, ever, ever expected would be something to happen during this time I'm alive on this rock.
Yeah, and everything else we brushed off, like SARS, Ebola, like it never really affected our day-to-day lives, you know? That's it.
So to your point, like, fuck it. It's weird that we're willing to put our mindset somewhere else now, because I think it took a few weeks, if not a few months, for us to kind of realize, like, oh, this is real. Like, you know what I mean? This is people are not overreacting to all of this there, because look at Montreal, like people starting relaxing a little bit, and then boom, then it's like, oh, back to normal. Like, whoa, what the fuck? Like,
well, I was making a lot of jokes at first. I had a post for like the first case in Quebec, and I put my face on it and all this stuff, and then I was like, as I was making these jokes, I'm like, people were dying, and I'm like, oh, this, like, I've still made a couple offhand jokes because I just have fucking horribly dark humor, but I just mean, like, I stopped doing it so predominantly because I'm like, this is serious, because, like, for me at first it was like, bah, okay, it's happening across the ocean, by the time it gets here, fuck, who cares? But then I was like, oh shit, this is real, like, fucking, it gets in an old folks home, it kills everybody. I was like, shit, these are people's grandparents, and they're all dying. I was like, okay, it's not really funny anymore. I was like, oh shit.
You know, like your friend was saying, like, oh, they're gonna shut down the gas station. Like, one thing is gonna lead to one other. You know, you want to say like, oh, that's you're jumping ahead way too much, right? Yeah. You're jumping ahead, but like, we're like 2 months in, 2 months plus now of being at home, and like, just think of the things that it does affect. It's starting to affect 2 months in. Like, your internet is slower, right? Because not only is everybody on it, I believe that companies are pulling back on pulling back a little bit on allowing how much data is available for everybody. Even if, I don't even know if that's possible, but
they just throttle the speed. That's it,
right? So you get lower quality of shit, right? So it's like, that's already starting to be a thing. So like in a month from now, if your internet every Sunday shuts out for 12 hours, like it did for mine 2 weeks ago, like, and I called Bell and they were like, yeah, it's a known thing. It'll be fixed in the next 12 hours. Like, if that starts becoming your new reality, like, oh, the internet's out again, like, more and more things are going to being affected because, number one, people are either not at work, so there's less and less people to take care of shit breaking down. Yeah. Like, as much as you want to rely on technology, every day where you got big companies that depend on technology, there's a lot of maintenance to that technology. Like, either it be update the programs and all this, and I know you could all do that shit from work. It probably doesn't change a thing, and I'm talking out of my ass, but
just for me at work, like, I connect through a VPN to get to and it connects to my desktop computer at work. But if ever they do a massive update and a change and the computer restarts itself, if my desktop turns off at my office in the city, I can't log into my VPN. So someone has to physically go to my computer, turn on the tower, and then I can reconnect. I was like, that's crazy. So much is done wirelessly, automatically, but then someone has to physically push this button for my computer to work. I was like, that's crazy.
It's insane, because if the power goes out in Montreal or the area where you're fucking baby out, and it's out for a week because this is 6 months in and people don't know what the fuck to do, you can't work from home anymore. Yeah. Right? So now you become part of this in a non-productive way, right? You're like, yeah, you can't work from home anymore. Electricity is being cut off every week. There's obviously I'm exaggerating, and I'm seeing it more as an apocalypse type scenario, but I'm just saying, there, as much as the reason I guess I bring it up is because at the beginning of this, I had a strong stance on, no, I'm going to stay home. I ain't going to kiss no babies. I ain't going to shake anybody's hand. I'm going to stay away from everybody, because that's the option that's best for my unit, for my family, right? To protect my kids and my wife. That's who I have to protect. And this way of thinking and going with these guidelines, that gives me the better odds of being safe and my family being healthy. But now the more I go, okay, listen, I'm a bit more loose on that stance a little bit, because I get why certain people want to reopen the economy. I get why certain people want to bring people back to work and to a certain norm, and why they want to take the chance of maybe infecting certain people, because they're like, we can't only think about this virus and how it affects us, because there's other aspect of staying at home, like mental health, and just it can't be healthy to breathe in the same air from your fucking home for a fucking week straight. Like, you can't tell me that's healthy. Like, and as much as you want to work out from home, When you're someone like me that depends on a lot of equipment and dumbbells and stuff that I don't have at home, I'm not getting that same output. Then my body becomes more like you don't need the same output. You don't need to have the same. So my body becomes like this new thing. Like it's not the same. And like people, I think, need to start realizing like we have to figure out a way to do it as safe as possible. But we're going to have to, like, by September, man, people need to. You're gonna have to start going back to work and just wear your mask. I know it sucks. I know it seems like, oh fuck, I have to wear a mask. But dude, if it even brings up, like, if we can reopen the economy, if everybody is forced to wear a mask, but that allows us to reopen the economy and be around each other at a distance, then we have to go with that option. Because if this goes back too long, like I said, those little glitches now in the technology and all the things like the internet and all that stuff, that's just going to become more rampant, and then people are going to start panicking. Those friends, like your friend, they're going to go, I fucking told you. I told you they were going to fucking start shutting down the gas stations, right? Because they're losing money. Like me, no one puts gas in their car like before. Like it's going to be like.
I spent $40 of gas in the past month. Usually I'd spend that in like 2-3 days. It's crazy though. But when this first came out, like I started like I made fun, and I still make fun of the people who are protesting some of it, because I'm just the ones who are wearing like bulletproof vests and they have their guns, and I'm like, what, you're gonna fucking shoot the disease? Like what the fuck? But I was making fun of them, and one buddy was like, yeah, he was like, but you're being paid. He's like, you're being paid to work at home, or in Canada we have like all these like assistance programs. He's like, if you work in the States, you don't have these programs, and your kids aren't being fed. He's like, you don't give a fuck about the virus. You want to go back to work. He's like, you can't feed your fucking kids.
That's right.
I was like, yeah, I guess they got a point there. It's easy to say, oh, stay at home when you either work at home or when you're getting $2,000 every couple of weeks. But if you're just stuck, like, all right, kids, we're scraping the freezer wall for ice tonight, like, that's when shit gets a little bit more dire, and you're willing, like, yeah, okay, I don't give a shit. We got to get back to work.
Well, that's it for episode 40 of This Savage Life. I really hope you enjoyed part 1 of my conversation with Dawson Graham. Part 2 will be released this Thursday on episode 41. So look out for that. Again, if you haven't subscribed to This Savage Life, please go ahead and do so. Available pretty much anywhere you can find your podcast. Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Also subscribe to my YouTube page, Savage Paulson. I also release all the episodes of This Savage Life on my YouTube page. So for those that find that YouTube is a bit easier for them, go ahead, subscribe, hit the notification button as well on the YouTube page under Savage Paulson. If you're still listening up to this right now, I appreciate the fuck out of you. I appreciate the fuck out of anybody that's taking the time to download, subscribe, comment, share this podcast. It's awesome. I really appreciate it. And much love to all of you. Again, looking forward to doing a lot more of these and getting better at these. So really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Much love, everybody. Bye-bye.